Guess where you just got into cool guy zone.
Fresh out the oven. No, not the oven. Crockpot. Hello. Forgive me. Let me get my bearings. The audio is a little off. It's because I'm trying using a lav and a boom mic on a boom. That's on an arm. Doesn't matter. Anyway. Continuing where we left off yesterday, in preparation for today's stream, I wanted to make this mold box completely out of monster clay. And if you saw yesterday or you watch footage from the last one, I started to get very sweaty just trying to work the monster clay by hand. So I decided to not do that again, and put some in a crock pot. I've got some footage. I'm going to make a video of it, but it went really well. It did start to simmer, and it did leak out of the container. heat proof, not heat proof, but heat resistant container they say you can cook it in. Yeah. It heats like chocolate, which is really cool. And you can stir it with metal spoon. We got some of it out with a little rubber spatula. But yeah, somewhere along the lines, that would do it. There's a huge crack in it right there, and I guess monster clay started to seep out of that. But other than that, it was very successful. It all melted really nice, and the whole plan of getting it to lay in a 1/4 inch worked out also, because I want the walls of my mold box to be at least a 1/4 inch thick. So the best way I could think of to get a uniform with a slab of monster clay was to put it in a cookie sheet and then have a 1/4 inch piece of plywood. Hold on. This camera's not on. Come to life. Let's see. Okay. Hello. So I plopped I cut like a rough 1 inch by 1 inch square of plywood, and I put it right there in the center of the cookie sheet. And then once the monster clay was good and gooey and liquidy, I poured this in right around the plywood and made sure it spread equally. And I tried to get it as close to the top of the plywood as I possibly could while it was still really hot. And it looks like I'm only off by like a hair. So I would call that a success. The other thing I got to do is I have to clean up the bed of the mold that I started making yesterday. I got to get some of the clay away from around the fingers and just make sure that the clay just comes up to each one, not kind of envelops each one. And if everything goes well and we're all timely and stuff, we might be able to actually get to the next step and mix some silicone with this. That would be great. That would be ideal. Also, oh yeah, so cookie sheet and then a little reference block for thickness. And I had so much still left over even after this cookie sheet worth that I just started finding other stuff that I could pour monster clay into just to kind of have some pre-cut, pre-shaped slabs and bricks for whatever use. And then also, like, once this mold box is done, technically I can save some of the pieces and just reuse. This is just the lid and the base to the same Tupperware to-go container. But that's funny because it worked out. It's a little uneven, like when you pour liquid monster clay into something that you're, if you're going to replicate this, I would do the corners first, because as it spread, it cooled, and you can see like some of the corners are a little uneven, but it's not a uniform thickness. But this was my first time messing around with monster clay like this, so like it's that easy. And then yesterday, totally neglected to use any kind of sculpting tools that I have, so I broke some of those out. And oh yeah, the massive outline that I started working on yesterday. Don't know if we're gonna use it. We're gonna use it for making sure proportions are okay. So the outline from yesterday is still on the floor. And yeah, probably just gonna use it to have it as an aside. Just to make sure proportions are staying close to what I want them to be during the build. And that's probably going to be the reference that's like up on the wall for the entirety of this project and the other project that I haven't mentioned yet. Don't worry about that. Secret. First things first, is this cool enough? That's pretty cool. So I think I want to start cutting into this. And to do that, I've got some plastic. Really old plastic. Carving, sculpting tools somewhere. Stand by. One day I'll have a workbench or a workstation, work table in an actual shop environment that this stuff will be a little more readily available. Because I'm sure you guys love listening to me talk to you from 5 feet away whilst rummaging through a tool cabinet off camera. Okay. I've got a couple of really cheap, probably like child sculpting set knives. And we can start getting some measurements. So I know I want the walls to be 1/4 inch thick, and the base of it, well, there's definitely a 1/4 inch of material in between the paper and the face hugger, so the base is fine. I need to come up a 1/4 inch above our creepy friend here, so That means I'm going to need a clay wall approximately here. Use a 1, 2, 3 block as reference. Ruler. That way so you can see what the hell I'm doing. So I got a 1, 2, 3 block up against our friend, and I'm just going to get a mark, relative mark to where the top of the facehugger sits, and it's about halfway through this side peg hole in the 1, 2, 3 block, which is, let's switch to I'm gonna stick with empirical just because I started with a 1/4 inch. So coming up a 1/4 inch of the 1, 2, 3 block, I am going to need a wall approximately, hold on, about halfway through that. So I'm going to want to tack on a 1/4 inch to that minimum. .25 inch wall is what I'm going to need. Yeah, 1.25 inch. The length I can cut to length, so I'm just going to cut strip of 1.25. Do I have a better? No, I'll just continue using a 1, 2, 3 block as my guide. Wish the corners of cookie sheets were square. Kind of a bummer. 1.25 on the 1, 2, 3 block is about there. Okay. Oh, it's throwing me off because the cookie sheet's not straight angled. All right, hold on. Just making more work out of this than I need to. Story of my life. See, how far off the bend of the cookie sheet do I have to cut? Here. That's pretty far off. Okay. So many uses for 1, 2, 3 blocks. Gotta love it. Straight edge, paperweight, what have you. I just need to do this for one corner of the cookie sheet. I just want to make sure the space is squared off. So every slab I cut out is squared. Yeah. And I guess I should really just be cutting monster clay as I do this. We can see. Ah, that is an ancient cutting tool. Cheap plastic crap. I did not put that much pressure on it. And I certainly don't want to use metal. I don't want to damage the cookie sheet or whatever cutting implement I would even consider using. Okay. I don't know how well these plastic tools are going to work, but let's see if I can at least pull this bit up. I don't know. Is it like when it baked, did it get like stuck to the freaking cookie sheet? Uh-oh. Don't say that. I know you don't have to use nonstick with this. This stuff's oil-based. Oh no. It's like stuck in the cookie sheet. Okay. Well. Let's just move along then. 1.25 high. 1.25 inch wall is what I want. So mark it 1.25. Straight to me. I guess I can figure that out for real instead of just guessing. Yeah. 1.5. 1.25. Okay. Huh. I wonder if I can still kind of utilize this piece of crap somehow. Let me try and just cut along this ruler line that I made. I don't think this ruler's straight anymore. I think it's a little bowed. Okay, that clay is really thick. Okay. Don't know if this is going to be practical. It keeps traveling on me. Okay. This sucks. I really don't want to just start using a blade for this, but everything else is just really wedging into it, so I don't want to do that either. Okay. Oh, this is kind of a little better, right? Sure. Still feel a little bit of heat coming off of the cookie sheet. That's crazy. It definitely cooled down by now. Oh, I can't even tell if I've cut through to the cookie sheet. This was supposed to be the easier method of doing this. And I think I'm probably going to end up just working up just as much of a sweat as I would have just trying to do this without heating it up. And does this stuff even want to come out of the cookie sheet? Oh, wow. Come on, man. Really? Why is this? What if I just use the back of a blade? Because this thing's just too thick for this. What do I have? Gotta have something dull and sturdy. And I got a box cutter. Should I use a box cutter? No. Kind of all I have that I think would work for this. I mean, it's not just a box. I mean, it is just a box cutter, but it's a nice box cutter. With like a lockback and everything. I don't really know what else to do. Is not as effortless as it was meant to be. Well, definitely hitting the cookie sheet with a blade. Feel that. Hate it. Not only is this an issue for the cookie sheet getting scratched, but this is an issue for my blade getting dulled, so I think what I may want to do is do this the same way they make a bunch of bricks all at once, is just have tray with the outline of the slabs that I want already kind of cut. Okay. So what if I just start trying to wedge this clay out? Okay, well, that's not very effective. As you can see by this ruler, I've used this ruler for this kind of thing a lot. I have a chisel somewhere. That's the key. Part of that sentence is somewhere. A bunch of chisels somewhere. I mean, this is my first time using this crap, so this material, so I'll go easy on myself. But it's just not coming out like I thought it would, which is a bummer. Can I get underneath? Yeah, there we go. That's what I want. Come on. Ah, yeah. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, look at it. Look at it. Look at it. Oh, gorgeous. That's that was it. That's what I was looking for. Relatively uniform thickness, the whole length, and yeah. Yeah. There you go. That's how you get. Oh, also, totally make sure you clean your cookie sheet before you try this. I didn't, and there's going to be all kinds of schmegma stuck to the bottom of this monster clay. So, yeah, clean your cookie sheet. Do as I say, not as I do. That should really be the moral. The moral. That should really be the motto of Wow Tom Real Cool. Do as I say, not as I do. You're gonna be hearing a lot of that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, let's do it again. So I'm gonna look into either investing in or just MacGyvering some carving, some clay carving stuff. Not the sculpting stuff, like the actual like carving. Make life a little easier. I'm also gonna clean up this cookie sheet as I go, if it's okay with you. I want to leave it like this. Once you get it started, it looks like it's pretty easy to peel up. I'm surprised how easily it came out after I started, because judging by how it's peeling off of the sides, it's still pretty stuck to the side of the cookie sheet. I wonder if there's anything I can spray beforehand that won't contaminate the clay. Probably not, because I mean the clay is going to absorb whatever's, unless it's something that can evaporate from the heat and won't contaminate the clay. I don't know. I'm going to look into it. I only watched a couple of videos on this before I did it, but I've been watching monster clay videos and for literal years, and I think I bought this brick probably 2 or 3 years ago, and this is the first time. This is not the first time I'm using it, but this is definitely the most I'm getting out of it since I bought it. And I think I've only really used it for one other project prior to this, so I finally get to mess around with this stuff. Okay. Peel the rest of the stuff off the back of this ruler. Oh no, it's gooey. Don't like it. Do not like. It's just isopropyl alcohol. It's here. It's my impromptu gooby gun. I got some goo on the bottom of this ruler where the cork was glued to it. One day I'm also going to get one of those really nice plastic rulers with the metal guide, or without the metal guide. Anyway, what did I say? The 1.25. Let's cut another line of this stuff. This can be put over there. So I'm going to include all the way up to where it ends. Yeah, so there is a little, I can see I scraped the cookie sheet. I don't want to do that. So I got to get something that's hard enough to cut through this stuff without damaging what it's in. And the plastic tools I did have, I did not get much mileage out of. Oh, but I can use it to at least like trace my cut lines in. This nice and lined up. Gorgeous. Oh my god. Okay. It just occurred to me. Keeping this stuff on the ruler makes it uneven when I'm laying it down anyway. But I have an idea. Roll with me on this. Hear me out. Get all this crap off. Whatever this adhesive tape is. Don't need that. Okay. A little bit of IPA, isopropyl alcohol, on my rag. Conveniently enough, the isopropyl alcohol is what's used to clean this stuff off of other stuff, which I'm definitely going to need to use in my kitchen. Got this stuff all over the counter. It's great though, because like once this stuff cools, it just pops off of whatever it's stuck to for the most part, like your countertop, and obviously nothing porous, but smooth countertops and cutting boards and anything made of silicone. This clay should come right off. Fabric, any kind of weave, any kind of porous material, even the little facehugger action figure I've got embedded right there is going to need a little bit of cleanup work. But from what I've seen, it's all relatively easy. It should definitely come off easier than this freaking glue. I do need this ruler to be clean though. Okay, that should do it. Watch this. Watch this. He said. Okay. Sorry about the banging. This should also work. You know, if your ruler's not bowed, maybe I can just press it. Nope. It's because it's blunt. It needs to be a knife. It needs to be sharp. It needs to slightly wedge and split while it's cutting. But if I can put enough weight on it, it does go in. Damn, man, you could build a shelter with this crap. Just send what's that one, the fake survival primitive architecture or whatever. Give them a pallet of this crap. You're like, here you go. Here's your building materials. Make a actual brick out of this crap. Yeah, that kind of works. Learning something new every day here. There we go. Okay. And we're just going to start at a corner. Pry it up. No. Gotta start a little further away from a corner than that. Oh, look, I got a little square. That's fun. Look at that. Oh, and one of my favorite qualities of Monster Clay is that it's gonna pull the finish off of whatever you've put it on. So this is how it dries, nice and matte, right? Nothing to it. But if you put it on a smooth, glossy surface, it's going to reflect said glossy surface, right? So if you want to cast something out of resin and you want that thing to be transparent, get the surface you're going to cast as polished as you possibly can. That's the secret. It's not much of a secret because I just told you, but that's the trick. I can't wait to do that myself. All right, I'm just going to pull one more strip out of here. I need to, I don't think it's cut all the way to the cookie sheet. I got to keep going, keep working at it like this a little. How does it always manage to be thundering while I'm live streaming? It's not like I try and make that happen. Okay. Come on. Yeah. Okay. Oh, that didn't work out. Oof. The cookie sheet's gonna be spotless when I'm done. Did I not cut through? I just didn't cut through all the way in enough spots, I think, on this one. I'm just gonna run the back of this through just once to make sure I've got it off sheet. Might have to retire a cookie sheet and use it just for Monster Clay. Come on, just like the other one. Yeah, oh, it's thicker on this side, for sure. Oh, wow. Yeah. That didn't lay evenly. All right, so we're learning so much about monster clay from this. Yeah, so you can see dimensionally how much thicker it laid on one side than the other, because that's the side I started pouring on initially. So I'm just gonna have to be aware of that moving forward. I could also just use the ruler, I guess. At least the ruler's a blunt edge. All right, I'm gonna save the rest of that for another time to do that tediousness. Let me get this one going. So, excuse me, I keep burping up lunch. I apologize. I inhaled some chili. So I got my strips cut. I got the mold ready to wall up. But before I start getting into that mess, I need to clean up the job I did embedding this guy in monster clay. It's got to be smoothed, and I'll just refined a little bit along where the finger legs lingers. I don't know what you want to call the appendages that wrap around the facehugger's victim's face. Yeah, and I got a little bit of clay on the model where I don't want it, so that's got to get cleaned up. And it's also like this maquette's not the best. This is, and it's still not the worst either. The one that came with the Ultimate Warrior one is just awful. And this is the one that came with the big chap, the NECA big chat figure, which is better than the other one, but so far what I've seen, the best figure that came with Xenomorph is the Figma. The Figma 1/12th. Is it 1/12th or 1/6th? I think it's a 1/12th scale Xenomorph. Was the best looking figure, but I couldn't get my hands on that. This one was expensive enough as it is, and I'm probably going to return it once I'm done with it. Provided they don't watch this and say like, oh, well, you decrease the value by, embedding it in clay. You're not wrong. Probably should have started working on this on something other than paper. Oh well, it'll have to do. So I really just want to got some clay in between the little divots on the tail that I got to get rid of, and I got to smooth this clay out and pull some of it away from the maquette, and then smooth out the monster clay with isopropyl. And then yeah, then we can build the box and see where we're at if things are going well. Might just end up mixing up some silicone today. Is there something I can put this on? Some kind of base to bring it closer to the camera without me having to zoom in on it. Let's find something without my address on it. That's better. Yeah, all right, because now I can get really close to it without blocking it with my giant head. This is what I see whenever I look up footage or videos of monster clay, is you just see the maker in the video like this. Just like face 2 inches away from the monster clay with this tiny little tool in their hand. So I think I'm gonna pull. Can I also just say that this is my first time using these clay sculpting tools, but aside from the crappy little green sculpting tool you saw me break, I have never used clay sculpting tools because I've never sculpted clay. I've used like Sculpey bake stuff in the past to make like little like skulls and stuff, but I've never actually worked with professional grade clay like this. And I call this professional grade because I'm comparing it to everything else I've used. And this is the coolest stuff. This stream is not sponsored by Monster Clay, but you can hit me up. I'm pushing the clay down around each leg. I'm also trying to smooth out the seam that the sculptor, not the sculptor, but whoever cast the original sculpt of this, as tiny as it is, you can still see seams on each finger. So I kind of want to get rid of that too while I'm in here. I've been wanting to do this for so long, just never took the time to start a project that needed it until now. I'll rephrase. This is not necessary for the prop. Don't get me wrong. This is a pure result of perfectionism. It has absolutely nothing to do with getting the prop done. Oh, this is so yay. So you can take the end of this little tool and just pull it along the clay and it'll gouge out some of it. Forgive me if I'm fascinated by how this stuff is worked. So nice. You can just scoop it. I don't know why that blows my mind a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, that is delightfully satisfying. Why didn't anyone tell me? I've been watching prop makers use this stuff on YouTube for years, and I've had the box of this stuff for so long. I just never. Yeah, well, now that I know how fun it is, how satisfying, I guess I should say, it is. I'm gonna be using this stuff a lot more often. At some point during the course of this particular string of live streams for this project, I'm going to be utilizing a lot of different methods and whatever, but I'm also just going to be working on other stuff completely and stuff that I've never used before. And one of the major plans is casting, not only making a mold box for the first time, but then everything that entails. Is I've never made a mold box. I've never had to cast anything in resin or make a mold box out of silicone for it. So this is going to be an awesome experience. And I am really excited to be able to doing all of those things. Making a copy of this is obviously how it's starting. But depending on how this goes and how well I do, and if I can replicate it, then I can add this to my arsenal of skills. I can smooth all that out. This is just supposed to be removing material away from it. Just so the top part of the mold has an easier time pulling in some detail. Or getting some of the detail. Oops. Took out a little too much. That one. Trying not to rough up the toy if I can help it. That's not what we want to do. It's supposed to be removing material from the clay, not from the model. I know there's a couple makers on YouTube that made tutorials on making their own sculpting tools, so maybe I'll take a page out of their book and make my own. I know I've got some old guitar strings, and I definitely have some old bass strings lying around. Crazy thunder going on out there again. Every time I'm recording or streaming, I swear. So yeah, just to reiterate, all I'm doing is pulling clay out from in between each digit, leaving the clay underneath and just having it as a smooth kind of drop off around each one. And now that I've removed all the material I want to remove, I got to go back in and refine it. Please keep in mind, I have not attended any kind of art school. I've never worked with this material before. So, if I'm doing anything silly or asinine or ass backwards, I apologize. It is from a place of artistic ignorance, I believe, is how I would classify. I'm gonna have to go in with an old toothbrush or something at some point, so I can clean up. The clay that I actually got on the figure. Whatever's on top of this fake face hugger is going to be cast in resin, so any clay that's stuck to the piece on this top part is going to show up in the casting, and I don't want that. I am sorry, the majority of today's stream is going to be me doing this. But I did tell you I was going to be doing 99% of the stream live. Well, this counts as the 99%. Moving forward, though, I will try to do the more boring, tedious stuff off of live stream. I probably won't even record most of it, just enough. Just enough to prove that I did it. So, oh, Tom, I don't believe you really sculpted that. You didn't do a live stream. Half the time when I'm done with this stuff, I can't even believe that I made it. Normally, the hyperfocus was so strong, I have no actual working memory of finishing it. Starting it, yeah. Finishing it's usually a blur by that point. Oh, I have to buy acrylic nails, guys. I just remembered that these things have fingernails to some degree. I don't want to. I don't want to. Did HR, was that in HR Giger's original design? That I know the fingers aspect of it was part of the original, right? Yeah, I think so. But the actual fingernails. Ugh. Don't like it. Burn it with fire. My least favorite enemies in video games are the ones that have something to do with hands or fingers. And I think most video game studios knew that and preyed on it. The two most egregious examples being the wall masters from Zelda, Ocarina of Time specifically, and then those weird giant finger hand monstrosities from Elden Ring. It's like there was no reason to make them look like hands. None. But they did it anyway. I can go back in and refine. I'm just gonna go back to removing material. They've got their seam like right. They've got their seam of the original right down the center of each finger. The way I'm laying the clay out, excuse me, it's going to be along the bottom of each finger. So hopefully the seam will be in between. It'll be on the underside, the lower side of each appendage. So when handling or photographing, you should not be able to see it. Take some material away from around the lung things, breathing apparatus for whatever this thing is sucked onto. Just kind of dig out the lungs a bit. The silicone really wraps around it. And also keep the seam from being around the top of it like I originally had it. By the time I was prepping this yesterday before the end of the stream, I was so tired and just mentally checked out. I should have a toothbrush around here that I can sacrifice. Also got to think about what I'm going to use for registration keys. Make sure the two pieces of this mold go back the way I want them to. I got clay on its weird, stupid little face. There's just too many places. There's too many crevices and creases for the mustard clay to stick to on the model. more clay I get stuck where I don't want it, the more cleanup work I have to do. I don't want to do that. But I am getting more appreciation. As I do this, I'm getting more and more appreciation for the action figure sculptors of our world, because sculpting something this small, this detailed, I'm having a time just encasing it in this stuff. I don't want to think about what was entailed in making the initial mold for this while it was still made of something else. They had to have used like fuel injection, what's it called? Just injection molding or something. Going to be a lot of silicone at the base of this when it's done, but that's just how it's going to be. If anything, the extra or excess silicone on the base will make it that much sturdier of a mold. I got so much clay in the tiny details on some of this. So glad I didn't go with my first idea, which was to take a maquette or model such as this, and my idea for getting a perfect seam in the clay was having the clay molten like it started out, like how we got the slabs, and laying the maquette in the molten clay and hoping for the best, and seeing how hot this stuff actually had to get in order for it to liquefy. That would have been the fastest way to make this model a permanent addition to the clay. Holy crap, was that stuff molten? It was molten. Like it melts just like chocolate, which is really confusing because it definitely didn't smell like chocolate when it was melting. Really hope I have a toothbrush to sacrifice. Almost done removing material. And then I'll get to refining the shape. I may need to actually put some clay back in some spots. I may have just gotten a little too scraper tool happy. Whatever this thing's called. Yeah. I got some. Definitely got some clay where it is not supposed to be. I just got to go along the whole length of the tail. Just kind of shed it. Yeah, that actually worked out pretty well. Come on. So save me some time with the I don't want to have to use a toothbrush and clean clay off the maquette. I'd rather just be able to scrape it a little bit, loosen it, and then do the old silly putty method, and hopefully it sticks to itself pretty well. It does. Ish. Not really. That'd be too cool if it worked just like silly putty, but it can't. Doesn't really stick to itself. I just messed up, and I got a little bit of clay in some of the not vertebra, but the segments of the tail that I just want to clean up, and some of the spaces around the body, the main body of the face hugger. And then I think I'm ready to start building up the clay wall. Okay, before I go any further, should I have the fingers outstretched a little more? Like that. No. No, I don't think I will. Okay, I think it's time. I think it's toothbrush time. I know I've got a clean one somewhere. Hold on. Cleanish. Yeah, there we go. And just a little thing to hold some isopropyl. Perfect. These little guys. What's the brand? Isha, disposable bamboo toothbrushes. But they're good to use for crafts and stuff, and like any application that you need a cheap bristled tool of some kind, or small brush disposable toothbrushes for the win. I didn't use the other tools yet, but I don't need to. Still a bunch of clay on these legs that I need to get out and off. I thought I was taking my time, but I guess not. if I didn't already state why I was doing this, I will either say it for the first time or reiterate. My preferred method of replicating props is the easier method, in which you have a physical model as reference for dimensions, size, color, everything, and making my own copy of it or having a copy of it and pulling all of the dimensions I can off of it. And that usually means some kind of damage to the model. Not always, but sometimes. Not something like this, because it's so small I wouldn't get a pattern off of it. I would take photographs of this, make the scale the photograph up, and then bring it into Inkscape and make an outline of it. Like, that's exactly what I'm going to do eventually with this. But the next best thing to that, or I'm sorry, the better thing to that is actually being able to tape up a prop and pull a one-to-one pattern off it, or pull a pattern off of something like this and scale it up to be one-to-one. The props that I've had to make a pattern off of and template and outline and all that stuff from just 2D images alone, not my favorite way to do it. Obviously, I don't think it's anyone's favorite to do it, honestly. But sometimes that's all you have, so you have to make do. So I have a perfect example. Up until recently, or maybe not recently, but up until a certain point, there was no accurate 3D model for some video games, especially the ones that were console only. The ones that were cross-platform, so PC and console, you could get a 3D, the actual in-game one-to-one 3D model of, because you can pull it off of that from PC. Console is a little harder to do that, if not totally impossible. So when that's the case and you don't have access to any kind of 3D imagery or model, then you got to make do with what you do with getting a reference, like we did yesterday. My backup reference, in case I couldn't find any dimensions for the facehugger whatsoever, the first thing I thought of using to scale was Kane's ear in that really famous still from the first movie with the facehugger on Kane's head as he's chilling on the hospital gurney. You can see his ear, and right next to his ear is one of the facehugger's legs. So there you go. That's it. Nothing else. You get the size. I would get the size of his ear, right? So measure his ear, trace it to my ear, and then trace it to the in relation to the length of the leg, or the segment of the leg that it's closest to. And then once you get another 2D image, or you make your own 2D image of what the creature in this case is going to look like, then you can apply the dimensions that you pulled from the image and your ear and apply it to your outline, and bada bing bada boom, you have a scaled up outline of a prop that you only had a image to reference. And I've had to do that for a couple props, and it's a more intimate process for sure. You get to know the ins and outs of that piece very well, to the point that you are eating breathing, sleeping, defecating, whatever that model is. I know a lot of prop makers that can attest to that. It becomes more than hyper focus and becomes more fixation at that point, obsession. I've only been working on, or at least like getting reference stuff ready for this for maybe a little over a month, and it's already been suggested to me that I refrain from mentioning anything related to xenomorphs or prop making to within this space and not outside this space. Which is totally understandable. I have the flavor of ADD that when I get a hyper focus, it's all I'll talk about, and I will start blurting out information about what I'm making completely unsolicited. So, fun for me, annoying for others. Is one of these things' fingers longer than the other? It like push it into the clay a little bit, I guess. Like I said, I want these to be. When you're doing something like this, you also got to make sure that stuff is symmetrical, right? So I got one leg kind of ahead of the other. That could also be. It looks like it might also be part of the original sculpt. That one of the finger legs just decided to do its own thing. Trying to start smoothing some of this out. I would love to eventually do this to all of the statues I have. Start getting creative with all that. No, I don't want to be an action figure channel. If I didn't have this like propped up on a cardboard box and zoomed in and I was just doing this by myself, I would just be hovering over it instead of close up to it like this. So this is a win-win for you and me. I can see what I'm doing to an annoying degree of detail, and I'm also not blocking the zoom in. That being said, if I do happen to move my head in front of the camera, do let me know. There's been a couple of times where I stopped looking and didn't realize that my head was blocking the shot for a while. Like, so long that the shot was no longer usable. Oh my god, that's tedious. Satisfying. So satisfying, but also so tedious. Okay, time to start carving away from the sides of this. Making sure I have enough space for the 1/4-inch walls that are going to be going on it. I don't know why I didn't just do that from the start. Silly Billy. Come on. Yeah, I'm gonna invest in sculpting tools. Now that I know how fun it is, I'm sold. I can get into this 100%. I'm not gonna live stream it because this is boring as hell to watch, but satisfying for me. Sorry, I'm not doing anything more fun today. The beginning of this build is going to be a slow burn, but once the build gets rolling, I'm probably going to have to stop shaving because I'm just not going to have the time or mental capacity to handle anything else. So, the race is on with Halloween fastly approaching. Okay. All right, now I'm just going to start smoothing it out, I guess. I'm going to do as much as I can, much smoothing as I can by hand. Then once it's nothing but fingerprints mostly, I'll switch to the isopropyl alcohol. But for now, I'm just going to get my hands dirty. I would love to be able to make a version of this that I can actually lay some wire in and make the entire facehugger figure posable. That'd be awesome. I do want this clay to look as pretty as I can get it because that's what the silicone is going to be capturing. So, yeah. I'm going to be a little perfectionist with it. I've seen people just just go to town with isopropyl alcohol. So I'm curious how rough I actually need to get with it. Not that rough. Cool. This is just getting all the little bits of clay because there's just so many wrinkles on this thing. I got to make sure that there's no chance of clay blocking up some of the detail in this figure. And I can see where I definitely got some joints. Definitely not supposed to be in there. There we go. Getting a little aggressive with it. But also not to the point that I can see like any kind of damage. You want to be careful if you're using isopropyl alcohol, especially with this. Some of the paint jobs they put on these more expensive figures, just because they're expensive statues, they don't, really need to seal the paint jobs they put on the PVC plastic or the ABS plastic. So what I've done, started in a spot that I'm not incredibly worried about, just to make sure this isn't rubbing any paint off, and it's not, so I can continue. And then while the clay is wet, I can come back in with just my finger and smooth it out a little bit. Just making sure each finger is clear of debris. And his stupid little face. There is a face in there. It's just really tiny and gross and wiggly. So I don't have any silicone tipped tools to smooth out in between, really, or smooth out at all. So when the silicone goes down, it's gonna pick up all these weird little details. But I guess no, yeah, I gotta get that clay smooth. Damn. Might be investing. You know what? I had silicone tipped tools on a wish list not that long ago, and I just never. It was a while ago. I just never pulled the trigger on it because I was like, when am I going to use them? And well, I was kind of right, because I bought this clay a long time ago. So I didn't need it then, but now some sculpting tools would be great. Just the smoothing tools. They got the fingernails on this little sculpt annoyingly detailed. They really should not look as good as they do on this little thing. Besides the fact that it has fingernails. Oh no. Just moved one of the fingers. Just knocked one of the fingers out of place. Oh. It's symmetrical. Yeah. Yes. Yes and no. Oh. Damn. Gotta go back and fix one. I did my best to avoid having to do that, but it's okay. Shenanigans. Okay. Wasn't so bad. Build the clay back up around this digit that I knocked out of place. Continue. Sorry, I got lost in my own little world there for a second. I think I'm just about satisfied with how this looks. I just really need to smooth it out. It's a little too lumpy for me. I just don't really have a good way of doing that, unfortunately. Okay. Let's see. I've got clay built up around each of the digits the way I want, and I think I wiped off a good amount of the clay that got on each little digit, I think. I hope. That should be it. I'm going to start putting down some slab, I think. Right? I don't know if I can get that any cleaner. Okay. So for this, I know from a couple of videos that silicone really likes to occupy any space that it can fill, and if there is a crevice, it will go into it. I've heard all the warnings. So I want to make sure when I lay down, or when I put a slab here like this, that it's going to be sealed. I'm not going to have to worry about silicone getting in there. Right? Or no, is this how it's... Yeah, on the outside. Right? Yes, because I want a 1/4 inch. It needs to be needs to be encased by a 1/4 inch, so let me just do some of this. That. And just like that, that is going to be one wall of the mold box. I just hope there's enough clay in the base. But anyway, what I was saying about silicone occupying any space that it can, one of the things I've kept in mind about using monster clay for this is that you can work monster clay in your hands until it is warm, and you can use it as a putty, and I plan on using it as a cement, as a clay cement. So I'm gonna work up a line, a bead of it, right, and then lay the bead along the inside angle of this, and then put the slab in place where I want it, and then wedge the mortar that I'm warming up into the seam. Theoretically, this should work. Theoretically, I've not put this into practice in any way, shape, or form yet. I can still see a little bit of monster clay where I really don't want it. Also, don't want to risk taking any of the paint off of this action figure, because isopropyl alcohol in small amounts is okay. Too much, and yeah, you start having problems. Paint, especially acrylic paint. I just want the mold to be presentable. That's all. This is purely cosmetic. There's nothing to do with the actual mold itself. Just want to pretty it up a little bit. A little messy. Got some warmed up clay. Lay it along here. In a little bit. That. Then take my slab. And just like that. Make sure it's kind of level. Just going to work that clay into it and seal it. Essentially, this is to make sure there's absolutely no silicone coming out. This should create a totally sealed, tight mold box. Well, that's one part of it. But looks pretty good to me for what that's worth, considering. But I mean, I don't think silicone's getting out of that seam. It's like a weld. I can actually clean it up even more. Make sure it's definitely not going anywhere. Oh wow, who knew? The butt of the toothbrush is actually a great smoothing tool. Not great, but oh, you know what? If I just rounded this with a Dremel, right? Or just bought some sculpting tools. That too. Yes. Okay. Next block. This one's like perfect. Straighten this cut. Yeah, that'll fit. Doesn't have to be the same thickness as long as it's a minimum thickness, and it definitely is. And that's all I needed was a minimum of 1/4 of an inch. That's the recommended minimum amount of wall for a 2-part silicone mold that I've heard, read, seen, all of the above. I didn't intend on spending this much time on this part of the build today. I think the description was supposed to be scaling, design, and mold box, but I'm just doing mold box. I'm gonna put that. I'll tape the outline we printed out yesterday together today before I sign off. So at least I can hold it up next to me and so much. I mean, it laid out, it looks bigger than you would think after seeing it in the movies. I'm gonna lay this a little thinner because I don't think I needed that much. Press it along the edge like so. And place my slab. So, and just carefully start tacking it into place with the bottom of this toothbrush acting like a weld soldering iron. Use the tools you have to the best of your ability. And when in doubt, improvise. I just got to put an end cap on the box here. Smooth out as much of the base. It's just, I know every wrinkle in the clay is going to show up in the silicone, and I'm trying to avoid it looking too rough. You know, I mean, it is a mold, and it's a mold of a xenomorph, but it might be my first mold box, but I definitely don't want it to be my ugliest. That makes sense. Shouldn't worry about it because there's always the possibility that this doesn't go the way I plan, which is always a risk, but right now I'm just trying to smooth out as much of the clay as I can around the base of the mold so it casts just a little cleaner. The base of this toothbrush is working surprisingly well as a smoothing tool, but I will either invest in or go so far as to make my own or invest in silicone sculpting tools, because professionalism, that's a good reason. Not that I can't afford them, or well, no, probably. How expensive are silicone sculpting tools? How bad could they be? I'm sure Amazon's got some cheapies that were be just sufficient enough. There's other stuff I want to do today, and I'm not on a time crunch. That camera does not like to stay on all day, so there is a point during the stream that I might lose the overhead, at least until it cools down. It overheats, you see. Okay, I gotta be careful with this part because this is where I messed it up last time and I had to rework some clay. There we go. No problem. Wow. Butt of the disposable toothbrush for the win. Who knew? You do now. Because it's wood, so it's hard enough to like maneuver and push around the monster clay without like digging into it, if that makes any sense. It's like the step in between a metal tool and a silicone tool, which is cool. Hey. Don't mind me, it's hot in here. I don't know how much smoother I can really get it in there. Clean that up a little bit. But I mean, that's where we're at. Like, that's a pretty good, you know? Keep in mind, I have never made a mold box. This is new territory for me. Okay, so now I need 3 joints of little softened clay mortar. I'll go in there with something else and smooth it out a little better. But in the meantime, that will suffice. Ooh, you know what? You know what would be perfect is if I had some monster clay that I kept gooey, and I could literally use it as mortar for this missed opportunity. I didn't even try that. That's perfect. Just gonna squish this piece into place. Just enough to squish the clay into itself. just go in with the toothbrush end and close it up like welding. I also want to smooth all of this clay in here out because I don't want to risk silicone getting in any of these English muffin nooks and crannies and I don't know, having random pieces of silicone in my monster clay when I go to use it next. Definitely don't want that. Although decontaminating this stuff is as easy as liquefying it and straining it, but you know, don't do that. You can help it avoid. If you can help to avoid it, avoid it. Interesting. I am wondering if I should seal up these sides, just where these two pieces meet. Probably couldn't hurt to just kind of tack it closed a little bit. Yeah. There we go. Just close the seam up. So this is going to be the mold box. I'm not going to need this once the other part of the silicone mold, the second part of the two-part mold is poured. I'm not even going to need the top and the bottom, but what I am going to need is 2 pieces of wood or something of equal density to sandwich this into when I put resin in it. I have not addressed that yet. I have so much scrap wood just dying for potential, so that's what that's going to be. Decent amount for this. I really don't have anything like... I wonder if no. I could just use like a... No. Just gonna use the brush. I'll finish that. Plug that up a little bit. There we go. Yeah, I guess I could just run the toothbrush in there. Do it that way. Just smooth it out as much as I can. Save on silicone. I don't have a lot of it, and this wasn't going to be my only or even my first mold. I originally wanted to make a mold of something else entirely, but it just wound up being this. I mean, yeah, smooth it out a little bit. Might even add clay to either side. No. That's unnecessary. The way this thing is shaped and the way I have it coming off of the base of the mold so much, I might not even need that many registration keys. I might put a couple in the front, and then like maybe one or two on the side of the tail. But like that's it because of the indentation. Shouldn't need to worry about it. Yeah. Shouldn't. Oh, I also haven't decided if this is going to be fuel injection. Why do I keep saying that? Injection molded. Injection mold. I don't know. I haven't decided exactly how I'm getting resin into that. Squish mold is probably the best bet. Squish mold probably is the best bet. But that feels like such a waste of resin. So I think what I might do. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's probably just it's gonna have to be squish molded. I don't think there's any way around it. I'd like this to be a 2-part mold, but just looking at how thin even the finger, how thin the fingers are, I don't think that's gonna be that good of an idea. Use the thicker side. I mean, the way this stuff poured and the way it cooled, it's, you know, it made too much sense to not try and make a mold box out of just nothing but. Okay, I'm just gonna squish this slab on. Like so. So. Sure, it's really. At least make sure they meet. Press them together a little bit so it's not just that bead of clay that's keeping it sealed. Just smushing it into each side of the seam here is really all I have to do with the butt of the toothbrush just to make sure it's closed. Gonna be an ugly ass mold. Just, or an ugly little creature. Fitting. So I can get in there a little bit with index finger and smooth out some of the corners at least. The rest of it, not so much. But also next time have a hot knife on the side. Maybe not, obviously not plugged in the whole time, but just to have it. I can use that to blend some of these seams and close them. Close up these corners. And then I think that's gonna do it. And then I don't know what to do next because I've never done this. Probably mixing silicone. Ooh, I don't have plastic mixing cups. I don't have plastic mixing cups. All I have are silicone mixing cups. I don't know. I mean, it looks right, right? Like every video you see of makers making molds and casting them, they kind of, you know, they resemble that, don't they? Lean up a little more clay. I know, I already said I was done with that part, but I am a perfectionist. I cannot help myself. But, I mean, that looks pretty good to me. That looks pretty good to me. You know? And like I said, I think I only need like maybe 2 or 3 registration keys that I'm just gonna make with excuse me. No, maybe I shouldn't use clay. But I don't think I have anything else I can just shove in there. Raising. Nothing that I'm worried about ruining it. That's okay. I'm just gonna use some of this. I keep finding spots where the clay is too high. So that leads me to believe that the way I went about making the seam line in the clay was not the most effective. So next time, I need, I need a way that's a little more practical. long as it's not like gonna grip the silicone in the wrong direction, then I guess a registration key is a registration key, right? As long as it doesn't rest funny. Cause the mold to rest funny. Yeah, I'm just gonna put just a couple little nubs in the mold to act as registration keys. Make sure the two halves go back together the way I intended them to. I see makers use everything for registration keys: marbles, screw heads, other pieces of silicone, scrap silicone, I don't have any of that yet. So I'm making registration keys out of what I'm making the mold box out of. They don't need to be that pointy, right? They just need to be able to release easy, not hook in to anything. All right. Right? Registration key done. I keep seeing the view count go up, but I can't see. I always miss it when the concurrent viewer is here. Sorry. I hope I'm not blocking it when you tune in. I could use one at the very end here, I guess. Ooh. Difficult to place, though. Put it on the end of something. Not exactly. I don't need it to be that big. I don't know if putting a registration key here is going to make it easier or harder to keep the two halves aligned. I just don't want this to actually work against its purpose. So like the two halves, like I don't know how it would do that, especially when it's being clamped and whatever. So but yeah, I didn't have anything on hand to make a registration key. So I made clay registration keys because I could. I don't think the silicone will mind. Also, don't ever put pressure pot. But I have plans for that. Try and smooth this tiny registration key at the back as much as I can, just to make sure no silicone or anything is going to ever snag on it. I think it's as smooth as I can make it. Yeah. Okay. I don't think I need any more registration keys. In fact, I really don't think I needed any because of the oblong shape of it, but put them in there anyway. Anyway. Am I about to lose power? Oh. Garbage. Okay. Let's at least read the old instructions. This is what I got. I got let's resin silicone rubber. Now that our mold box is good. Non-toxic and odorless, low viscosity, self-degassing. Perfect, because I don't have a pressure pot. That was a concern, that I have no way of degassing and pressurizing the bubbles out of the silicone and then... No, I'm sorry. Vacuuming the bubbles out of the silicone and suppressing the bubbles in the resin. Is that how it goes? One's vacuum, one's pressure. It's over. Huh. I can get an exact volume for how much. So, okay. This isn't a lot, which is why I bought it, because it's not a lot of silicone, right? Is it mixed? What is it mixed by? Okay. Bear with me. Obviously, do not swallow. Prepare container. Step 2, pour. Equal amount by weight. Is it by weight? Stir them thoroughly, 3 to 5 minutes. Pour. After you mix silicone, seal it and store it in the fridge for an hour. Then let it continue to cure at room temperature. Higher temperatures will cause bubbles. Low temperature will slow down the curing speed and leave enough time for the bubbles to escape. Lower some material. Some of the 3D model. Monster clay specifically is sulfur free. I think that was the chief factor for it being ideal for this, because the sulfur or any other kind of metallic will screw with the silicone and won't cure right. So this has a curing time of 40 minutes. That's cool. Okay, I still haven't determined whether it's by weight or by volume. Prepare a container, not silicone. Obviously, set your master mold into the container and keep the items face up. Pour part A into the mixing cup, or the equal amount of part B into the mixing cup. So they should just say equal amounts in the mixing cup. They show it being weighed on a scale. Does that mean it's by mix ratio 1A to 1B for mold making? What mixed to what though? By weight or by volume? It should say, right? Because you do have to follow that. I mean, equal amount of part B into the mixing cup by weight on the scale. They're just using. Okay. Wait. Did it say? Why am I not absorbing this? I'm so sorry. Part A in the mixing cup. Equal amount part B. Thoroughly 35 minutes. Remember to cover the top of the master mold by at least a 1/4 inch. That's why I made 1/4 inch thick slabs of monster clay. Because that's what it says. Oh, okay. Minimum quantity here. The lower the curing temperature, the longer the working time. Seal the bottle after use. Store it at room temperature. Clean the silicone spills with soapy water or wipe them off with rubbing alcohol. If the silicone gets frozen, please make sure it comes back up to room temperature before use. Minimum quantity of part A and part B is no less than 30 grams. Try to extend the curing time for 1 to 3 days if the silicone is sticky. Curing time 1 to 3 days. In case you're not sure if your master mold is compatible, please cure a small amount of silicone in contact with it first. And that's probably going to come back to bite me in the ass. 30 grams. Okay. Before I do anything with the silicone, which I'm sorry to say might not be happening today, but at least we got the mold box built, and I might be able to do something else before I sign off today. But for now, one thing I definitely want to do is get a volume measurement for the space I need to occupy. Hello. Sure am. Say hi.
Hello.
I need. Where'd the measure? You were using the measuring cup.
I am.
No. Do we have anything else that's graduated?
No. I'm sorry. Hold on.
No. Easy. We don't have. I don't have to use it. I don't have to do it. Not right now. My hands are covered in clay and crap.
Oh.
What? I'm almost
you don't
done.
Want to show off?
To the I don't know how many concurrent viewers I have right now. Yeah.
Where is it? It's right here.
What's in it?
No.
Oh. I'm just using it to get a volume for how much silicone I need to pour, or silicone I need to mix.
You know, it's a little wet.
Phrasing. Thank you. Do I have enough water? That's the other question. I didn't realize how dark it was.
Yeah.
I could hear the storm from in here, but it didn't seem that bad. Okay, thank you, love you. That's Mrs. Wow Tom. Just let me use her measuring cup. I'm going to pour water into Ooh, oh, good call. That's gotta. Actually, no. If I did a good job, and I hope I did a good job, sealing the inside of the mold box, I should not need to worry about this. And we're gonna find out right now with water. So I'm gonna fill our mold box with water, and that's gonna give me the amount of negative space by volume that's in the mold box, and that's gonna give me part one of the 2-part mold, at least. And then, yeah, no, okay, so I'm going to pour water into the mold, right? That's going to give me the volume that I need for part one. And then when I am finished with that and part one is poured and cured, and I take the clay off, whatever clay I remove from the bottom half of the mold box, I can get the volume of that. And that is approximately how much I'll need for the other half of the mold box. I also, please, for the love of God, if anyone is tuning in when we mix and pour the silicone, please don't let me forget to pour baby powder or some kind of mold release, because that is exactly what would happen the first time I try to do something like this. Okay. So I'm going to very carefully, very slowly start pouring water into the mold. Hold on, you should be getting the same view as me. This is going to give me the amount of silicone I need by volume for part one. Go right to the top. I want to make sure it's not like forming a cap anywhere. Either the mold box is on level or my desk is on level. I can't really tell. Or both. It's most likely both. Okay. Mold box is full. Doesn't seem to be leaking, which is awesome. Okay, so now the only thing left to do is to pour the water into our graduated measuring cup and measure it. Here. Doing this ass backwards. Pours right out of the mold box into the cylinder. Yes, and the mold box is liquid tight. Hell yeah. Couldn't recreate this if I wanted to, probably. Let's try and get every drop out of that. Come on. It's oil based, so of course the water is just beating up in it. I just don't want the water to gather and just kind of rest in here, because that will mess with the silicone. It'll be dry, and I'll make sure it's dry before I pour any silicone. But let's write this down. For 2-part mold base I'm going to need 170. Ooh. Oh, my desk is uneven. That's what it is. That means my floor is uneven? That's not good. Means my building is uneven? Whatever. It's like smack in between. Hold on. I gotta do a little bit of mathematics. Don't look at my work. I'm going to say 162.5. Let's say 163 milliliters. Or you want to go all empirical. Damn. They don't tell you how to account for uneven flooring when it comes to graduated cylinders. All right, 2/3. Two-thirds of a cup of silicone, and it's equal parts. So we're gonna have to do some sig fig stuff because I'm not. Whatever. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. So 81.5 milliliters of each part. A and B. Silicone. So I'm not talking about the base of the mold. That's cool. Okay. I am not messing with silicone today, unfortunately. It is too messy and I am out of time. But tomorrow, after some cleanup, tomorrow, hold on. I'm awesome that this worked out, and I'm happy that I got that done today. I'm fine with that. That's significant to me. Tomorrow, though, we're probably going to be mixing some silicone and pouring some silicone and leaving that to cure. First thing, right? And so hopefully that's the only thing I have to do first thing. And then after that, we can jump right back into design and outline. I did a little bit of measuring of our friend on the floor here. And it is, unfortunately, it's accurate from some of the Canon stuff that I've found on the interwebs. 4'11", and even the end of the digits, which is like 2.5 centimeters in diameter, is on point. But I mean, like, the thing's freaking huge, right? But it measures out, and even from its weird little face knob to the base of its tail, where the carapace for the body and the tail kind of meet here, is 22 centimeters roughly, which is the almost exact measurement between my hairline, where my hairline used to be, and the tip of my chin, which is what it's supposed to be. So, like, it just looks huge. But I guess it kind of is pretty big. I don't know. I've been looking at this baby toy for too long, and I keep thinking Facehugger is no bigger than this thing, which is not the case. But I think that's going to do it for today, guys. I appreciate everyone that stopped by to say hi. That was nice of you. I hope to see you all sooner rather than later. Definitely tomorrow. If not tomorrow, it'll be scheduled. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it. I hope you learned something, enjoyed something. I don't know. It's kind of quiet right now. This is the very beginning of the journey. So, yeah, if you're seeing this after the fact, don't hesitate to stop by. I'm here most days, but I will come up with some kind of schedule sooner rather than later. I'm rambling. Thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate you. Everyone have a good day and